Of the Shadows and Pete Townshend of The Who talk about guitars and guitar players.
There's no doubt about it, you could learn quickly a handful of chords that really was all that was necessary in order to play some of the early skiffle songs and some of the early rock and roll songs, because they were built around 12-bar blues, which is basically 3 chords. So obviously, very quickly, you could be making your own music. And what is more enjoyable than people getting together and singing and making their own music? And I think that really kicked off the popularity of the guitar.
You show me a living room of any kid's house on the street that hasn't had a little group in it at some time of day or night at some point in its history, and I'll show you the Jerusalem Diamond. I don't think it exists. The guitar, because of its portability and its practicability, has brought music back to that level. The guitar's a serious instrument now. When I was a kid, it was rock and roll will only last 10 minutes, and you should take up something serious, like the saxophone.
I played in a skiffle group, and I was playing a banjo, and a friend of mine, who in actual fact was a pianist and played really good barrel house piano, had a guitar lying around at home, and what he did, he brought it along to one of our practice sessions. He knew a few chords, which he showed me, and I then started to double on banjo and guitar when we used to play in youth clubs and things like that. We incorporated some of the material Lonnie Donegan did, because I'd heard some of the originals by people like Leadbelly and Big Bill Brunsey. So we tried to do them in what we felt was a more basic way, and not commercialize them. Whatever happened to my ideals? My father bought me what to me then was something very wonderful. It was a Hofner Congress, priced at around 16 guineas. I got that when I was 16. It wasn't an electric guitar. What it was a cello-bodied guitar. That's the ones with the curved top and the F sound holes in it, looking rather like a cello. I think about a month or so later, someone I knew had a guitar pickup. One of those ones you may have seen. The name escapes me, but coming out of the pickup itself, there are 2 arms which screw onto the side of the neck. So you fix the pickup right at the end of the fingerboard. Another person I knew had a small amplifier about as big as a cornflake packet, and that's exactly what it sounded like. But at least it amplified the guitar, and it was quite a thrill to hear the guitar through this little amplifier, because obviously the sound was quite different to that of the acoustic sound of the guitar. That was my first excursion into the realms of amplified sound. But then at around this time, a colleague of mine in the Shadows, Bruce Welsh, was at the same school. My group broke up and I joined his group, which were doing a lot of commercial kind of songs and getting a lot of work. And after school, this is what we did. We rehearsed, went to local working men's clubs, and we made it £2 or £3 each a week. And as I seemed to be the best guitar player, I used to listen to records and try to emulate the guitar solos by people like James Burton, who played on the early Ricky Nelson records. And I guess at that stage, that's when I really started to play the guitar proper and kind of left the banjo behind. A guy joined our group, a skiffle group, a guy called Eddie Silver, who in fact used to have a trio in Newcastle, and he had an American Vega electric guitar. It's a very interesting instrument. It had one pickup near the bridge. It had a very fine fingerboard and a really good sound. It sounded like an American guitar. By that I mean it had the sort of sound that we could hear on the early American rock and roll records. Whereas it seemed the British records at the time, like Tommy Steele's record and so on, just didn't have that sound on the electric guitars. I don't know what it was, probably a combination of the amplifiers, the heavy gauge strings being used, and the way they were played, I guess. This was now in 1958. Bruce and myself just playing down the Two Eyes Coffee Bar, and we met a guy called Peter Chester, who's the son of the comedian Charlie Chester. Peter played the drums and wrote songs, and we got together with Peter and a couple of his friends, and we called ourselves the Chesternuts, which we thought was pretty cool at the time. We did a couple of little gigs here and there, and we made a record which called Teenage Love, which almost charted.
Teenage love is a wonderful thing. Teenage love is a bird on the wing. Teenage love, when will I find mine?
At around this time, Cliff had his first big gig. He'd done a summer season at a Butlins camp, and he'd been offered to do a 2-week tour, one-night stands with the Kalin Twins headlining. They just had a big hit record with When. And Cliff was just a little name down on the bill and playing acoustic guitar, but he didn't want to play guitar because Jack Good had persuaded him not to. Otherwise he looked too Presley-ish, you see. So he wanted a guitar player and asked me if I'd do the gig. Well, I was already playing for the Most Brothers. That's Mickey, who's now the record producer. Jet Harris and myself were playing for him. Well, finding out he needed another guitar player, recommended Bruce. So we met Cliff. Cut a long story short, we became the Drifters.
Well, that'll be the day.
At that time, which was 1959, we were very influenced by the music that was happening in the United States, by people like Buddy Holly and the Crickets,
That'll be the day when I die.
the Everly Brothers, Elvis Presley,
Walking through a party in the county jail. The prison
Gene Vincent.
well, Bebop she's my baby.
Ricky Nelson,
It's late. We're about to run out of gas.
all the sort of early rock groups and singers and the musicians. And we noticed on photographs, for instance, on the photograph on the cover of the first Crickets album, Buddy Holly was holding a Sunburst Stratocaster. That's a Fender Stratocaster guitar. This guitar looked really something at the time. It still looks in advance of its time today, and it certainly did then. And so we wanted to get hold of a guitar that sounded like these American records. That was the main thing. Secondly, its appearance. They looked tremendous. Anyway, American instruments weren't obtainable in this country unless you found a second-hand, usually Gibson, that someone had bought in the States and brought in and sold. From what I was told, there was some kind of import ban on American instruments. So I saw this guitar in a shop in Shaftesbury Avenue. It was called an Antoria. The head of the guitar was obviously designed to copy a Fender. Well, it wasn't a very good copy. It was like a caveman had made it out of a tree trunk. It was that crude. But it still had the feel of the Fender flair about it. So I looked at the guitar, played it in the shop. It didn't sound like a Fender. It had a very distinctive sound of its own. So it was about 35 quid, I think. I just had to buy one. For those that care, you can hear the difference between the sound of the Antoria and the Stratocaster on later records. On the first Cliff album, which we recorded live in front of an audience at Abbey Road Studios. And it has a very clacky sort of sound to it.
Rock and roll. Dog, head to the gym, do the stock car ball. Turn the village over the cats to go wild. In the village, I make a dance to the ball. I'm ready, ready to rock and roll, go.
I used the Antoria on this, an occasion which was unfair on Cliff because in fact he had laryngitis on the 2 days we recorded. In fact, on the second day he could hardly speak, never mind sing. But that was the way it went in those days. He'd only had 2-hit records. The sessions had been booked, the food had been ordered, so you couldn't possibly postpone it. You did it, and if it ruined his career, that was tough.
Rock and roll.
We realised that this Antori had a really rotten neck. The action, that is the distance between the string and the fingerboard beneath it, was getting to the sort of over half an inch stage, you know. And it was very easy for it to become a cheese cutter and slice the edge off a person's fingers, namely mine. Anyway, apart from that, we thought really I'd have to get a better guitar, and also, why not try to get a Fender? Although there was an import ban, there was nothing to stop an individual privately importing. So we got a brochure which we poured through, all of us, very eager. It was full of Fender amplifiers, pedal steel guitars, all the various Fender electric guitars they made. And the one that looked the best bet was the Fender Stratocaster, the one Buddy Holly used, which, for the benefit of listeners who perhaps don't know what a Stratocaster looks like, it's an electric guitar with a double cutaway body. That means that the body, instead of following the contours of a normal acoustic guitar, as it gets to the top of the neck, the body is cut away to facilitate the fingers being able to reach the highermost frets. It has 3 electric pickups, which can produce quite a variety of sounds. It has a very distinctive sound. It was also available with a tremolo arm, which is a small lever, if you like, working on a hinged bridge principle, whereby this lever can rock the bridge back and forward, altering the pitch of the string, either up or down. And the most expensive version of it was with a bird's eye maple neck, with little tiny dark whorls in the wood. A little bird's eyes, I guess that's hence the name. Also with gold-plated hardware and a tremolo arm. That had to be the one. So that's the one we ordered. And when this guitar arrived, and we opened the case, it looked fantastic. And the body was coloured flamingo pink, not an unsubtle red. And it really was something, and it sounded really good. I used to flash this guitar off at some of the clubs in London. Used to go in, sit in for a few numbers, and people would just ogle at it, you know, with their mouths dropping, because no one had ever seen one before in the flesh. And I guess that guitar really then started what became the sound of the Shadows.
When I was 11 or 12, something like that, got a guitar for Christmas. Just an acoustic guitar, very, very cheap thing. My grandmother bought me. Extremely poor. I think when you're learning, it's very difficult to suddenly realise that what you're suffering from is a really bad instrument. So for about 2 years, all I really did was experiment with open tunings, believe it or not, most of which I've now forgotten. Later on, I think about when I was doing a paper round, I managed to buy myself another one, a Czechoslovakian acoustic. I can't remember the name of that, but that was a lot better. And once I got a real guitar that I could finger, I was very much into the Shadows at that time. I learnt all the chords to the Shadows instrumentals to that date, and got a chord book and started to develop from there. But I had hardened my hands up quite a lot, so I proceeded pretty quickly from there. So I didn't really start playing until I was about 14, I suppose. As soon as I could get my hands on a pickup, I put it on, and as soon as I got my hands on an amp, I got an amp. I wasn't really interested in acoustic guitar at all. You know, I was interested in rock music, and that was it. I mean, everybody that I liked in rock was playing electric. I never liked Elvis Presley very much, because I thought his backing band and the noises on his records were so peculiar. I mean, I used to think that Scotty Moore and people like that and the Jordanaires used to just make a funny kind of unorganised sound. And it wasn't until I started to get into some of the more precisely made records, which came in the second generation, like Ricky Nelson and the Everleys and people like that, who basically used one really wonderful guitar player called Jimmy Burton, that I realised what guitar playing, electric guitar playing, was all about. When I was about 15, I heard some blues for the first time, and then I got really hung up on that. But it was all electric. John Lee Hooker, I think it's about my biggest influence, because he used to play to a tiny little amplifier, whap it up, with great banana fingers just used to plunk away.
I love the way you walk. I love the way you walk. I'm crazy about your walk.
And if you play a John Lee Hooker record, I mean, you don't actually hear a guitar player at all, but you definitely hear an electric something or other. Rock and roll, once I knew where the music was, I just went apeshit. Chuck Berry was a tremendous influence. Strangely enough, although a lot of the figureheads in those days were guitar players, the only one who really took the guitar and really made it an emblem somehow was Chuck Berry. To the other guys, it was just like the harmonica. It was a cheap, easy to transport instrument. And Chuck Berry to me was somebody who used the guitar in a visual sense, which was an extension of his playing, which I was really, really impressed with. To this day, I don't think I could ever rate Chuck Berry high enough. I never copied Hank. I never ever presumed to. What I used to do was I used to play rhythm guitar in a group where some other chump tried to copy him, with John Entwistle on the bass. I was the rhythm player. And then when later on John and I got together with Roger, Roger was the lead guitar player in a group, and then later on he said, let's try a three-piece band with you playing guitar and me singing. And I think we were the first band I came across, although Jeff Beck was working with a band that was just a three-piece as well. They were also based in the Acton area, I think. Tridents, they were called, the Tridents. But at that time, that was a very kind of weird idea, and the only established band that just had that three-piece lineup was Johnny Kidd and the Pirates.
Down the backbone, I got the shakes down the knee bone. Yeah, the tremors in the thigh bone, shaking all over.
You have to develop a slightly different style of playing for that, like note, chord, note, note, chord, chord, note, 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 chord. You have to voice your guitar playing more like a solo player. And there's quite a lot of jazz playing style involved in it. You know the way jazz players play a bit of a melody and then a chord and then another bit of a melody and then another group of chords. That kind of thing.
Twist down the backbone, I got the shakes in the knee. That's where we're gonna bop. At the TV show, that's where we're gonna go. So put your books away, come along with me.
We knew Jack Good quite well from having appeared a number of times on the Oboe show. And Jack knew our regard for the American rock and rollers such as Gene Vincent. And when he had Gene Vincent appearing on whatever TV show it was that he was doing in Manchester, Cliff and ourselves drove across to meet Gene Vincent. And there's a guy there we knew reasonably well, Joe Brown. And we went and looked at this little device he had beside an amplifier. And he said it was an echo box. Inside was a flat drum with a tape fixed around the outside circumference of the drum, and lots of little tape recorder heads around it. Several knobs on the front. He said, try it out, it's great, it gives you echoes and things. So I tried it out, and it was quite amazing because we did all kinds of silly things with it. So anyway, I started using it, and immediately I just used it on everything. And as no one else was using it, it became very distinctive. One noticeable example of this was on the single Wonderful Land, going back in the early 60s. And I used this type of echo, which I'll attempt to recreate now.
I can play chords in my sleep, lying on my back with 2 bottles of brandy running out of each ear. But when it comes to a guitar solo, I have to be really bright as a button. I haven't got that natural ability to do it. And I mean, for a long time, it was one of the things that stood me apart because it used to frustrate me so much. I think it's what used to lead to my guitar hatred and hatred of even talking about the guitar. You know, I just used to think the guitar's just a thing, you know, that I use. I've got over that now and just admitted that basically, you know, I'm not as good a guitar player as a lot of other people are. When it comes to solo work, every now and again on the stage, if the balance of adrenaline and excitement and clarity of thought is there, I can play a really blinder solo. But you'll usually find about 3/4 of the way through I'll hit a bum note and it'll just bring me right down, you know. Zzz. So then I just go back to a nice crashing chord with an arm swing. And it's the same difference in the end, you know.
I can see for miles and miles. I can see for miles and miles. I can see for miles and miles.
The standard chord that I use is a 2-note chord. There's only 2 notes in it at A and E, and that's that. And I use that all the time. And when I want to add notes to it, I tend to add a suspended 4th, just bringing in a note like that one there. Which I always think of as a very sort of Keith Richard sound. I don't know why. I've never heard a blues player do it. But in G, for example, the simple chord book way of playing G is like this. You know, it's kind of... always makes me want to do that. I play it like that. It's only 2 notes again, G and D. Even though I know that that's only got 2 notes in it, I can hear another note in there. It just doesn't sound like 2 notes. The distortion throws in other notes, but it's also got this strange kind of Indian folk music, kind of droning thing, which has always been something that I've been very attracted to, which has led to things where I've played, you know, like Substitute, which is a root running like that, and a series of changes of the shape of D over the top. The D just plays.
my shoes are made of leather. But I'm a substitute for another guy. I look pretty tall, but my heels are high. The simple things you see are all complicated. Look pretty young, but I'm just backdated, yeah. Substitute your lies for fact. I see right through your plastic Mac. I look all white, but my dad was black. My fine-looking suit is really made out of sack. I was born with a plastic spoon in my mouth. The north side of my town faced east and the east was facing south. And now you dare to look me in the eye. Those crocodile tears will watch you cry. It's a genuine problem you won't try to work it out at all. Just pass it by, pass it by. Substitutes me for him. Substitutes my Coke for gin. Substitutes you for my mom. At least I'll get my washing done. I'm a substitute for another guy. I look pretty tall, but my heels are high. The simple things you see are all complicated. I look pretty young, but I'm just backdated, yeah. I was born with a plastic spoon in my mouth. The north side of my town faced east and the east was facing south. And now you dare to look me in the eye. Those crocodile tears will watch you cry. It's a genuine problem you won't try to work it out at all. Just pass it by, pass it by. Substitutes me for him. Substitutes my Coke for gin. Substitutes you for my mom. Substitutes my washing done. Substitutes your lies for fact. I see right through your plastic Mac. I look all white, but my dad was black. My sandwich suit is really made out of sack.
The weird thing about this is that this technique came from my very, very first guitar. Do you remember I was telling you I was experimenting with open tunings? I kept breaking strings until in the end I only had 3 strings. And I'd just play the 3 strings open and then I'd move up and down. You know, I think that's nice, and I'd write it down. No, quite like that. And there I had a song. Also, a lot of the early stuff like Tattoo came from a study of Renaissance music. I really listened to it very carefully, and I would stop the record and start to play the guitar, then I'd put the record back on. I wasn't copying, I was listening and reacting to, and I think study is not too pompous a word to use. I think even when I was listening to the Shadows, I was studying it, you know what I mean? I was really trying to get in there and find out what made them tick. But on Tattoo, they were chords which I lifted straight from a kind of a Baroque thing.
Me and my brother were talking to each other about what makes a man a man. Was it brain or brawn or the month you were born? He just couldn't understand. Our old man didn't like our appearance. what we had to do. We went downstairs past the barber and gymnasium and got our arms tattooed. Welcome to my life tattoo. I'm a man now, thanks to you. I expect I'll regret you, but the skin rock man will get you. You'll be there when I die. Tattoo. My dad beat me 'cause mine said mother, but my mother naturally liked it and beat my brother 'cause his tattoo was of a lady in the nude, and my mother thought that was extremely rude. Welcome to my life tattoo. We've a long time together, me and you. I expect I'll regret you, but the skin rock man will get you. You'll be there when I die. Now I'm older, I'm tattooed all over. My wife is tattooed.
My sound has got a lot to do with the chord shapes that I use and the fact that I move the neck all the time, like a vibrato arm, sometimes to the extent of ripping it off, but which I did quite a lot with Rickenbackers. They're not very strong. And with other players, for example, like Keith Richards, just his stance, his physical stance, you know, the way he kind of comes into a chord and goes out of a chord and makes sure that the important chords are on the beat, but the other ones are thrown away. So you get this feeling of like a locomotive going along, but with perhaps only 3 wheels or something. The kind of things for me that are really important, one is the way I stand, or if I'm sitting, I tend to sort of pin the guitar in between my legs so that I can move the neck like a vibrato arm. That's me moving the whole sort of neck of the guitar rather than a vibrato, but it gives a different effect than a vibrato. It's something that happens very naturally to an electric guitar when you're moving. You know, if you're on a stage jumping about all over the place. The technique I often use is to play a high chord and then thrash at the guitar neck, and the volition of the head, the weight in space, gives you a kind of a, you know, and just shake the whole guitar in space and get it to wobble. I was into doing anything that I could lay my hands on that was a kind of visual effect. I used to bang the guitar about a lot and experiment with feedback and try doing funny movements and stuff like that. But The Who's real first exercise in what showmanship was about was when we backed up the Stones and I saw Keith Richards. The curtains opened and he did that. You know, people limber up by swinging their arms. And I thought, Christ, what an amazing effect. And I copied him because it was such a great visual effect. But that's really where I got it from. I've smashed up so many great guitars. That really was a mixture of visual effect and genuine frustration. I used to get frustrated in an aggressive way because the atmosphere around the band in the early days was very peculiar. We were all viciously determined and ambitious to get to the top. And I just used to get frustrated that I couldn't get as much of the attention on the stage that I wanted, that I couldn't play as well as I wanted, and I just used to end up in a really strange kind of mixed up mood. And it wasn't drunkenness, it really was just screwed up kid, I think.
People try to put us to down, talking about my generation, just because we get around. Talking about my generation, things they do look awful. Talking about my generation, I hope I I die before I get old. Talking about my generation. This is my generation, baby. Why don't you all fade away? Don't try and dig what we all say. I'm not trying to cause a big sensation. I'm just talking about my generation. My generation. This is my generation, baby. Why don't you all fade away? Don't try to dig what we all say. I'm trying to cause a big sensation. Just talking about my generation. This is my generation. This is my generation, baby. My generation. People try to put us to down. My generation. Just because we could get around. My generation. Things they do look awful cold. My generation. I hope I die before I get old. My generation. My generation, baby. My generation.
Bruce has always had a problem with tuning up. Bruce has got an excellent ear for pitch, but he gets hypercritical about tuning in, and he was going through a bad spell at this time. So I think he had 3 new necks on his guitar, and it didn't appear to improve things very much. And he literally suffered, it sounds funny now, but it wasn't funny at the time, it suffered a nervous breakdown. I'm sure that wasn't the only factor involved, so I wouldn't like to lay this at Leo Fender's door or anything. But, but just watch it, Leo. We contacted Jimmy Burns, who we knew was making really fine electric guitars. Explained the situation. Would he be interested in making us something new, not his existing models? We wanted
So they were using Strats, which is the only guitar which would give them this vibrating sound in the treble. So I went out and bought a Strat, and I took it a bit to see what the heck it was all about. And I couldn't figure out what had happened with it. So I said to Jerry and George, the hi-fi guys, I said, will you put on the stratocaster onto your instruments and see if you can see what happens, where this vibrating sound's coming from. So they said, oh, we can't find it. So I said, right, looks to me as though it's a practical thing. So I locked myself up in my joint, put a hole in the door so I could put a few sandwiches through, a cup of tea now.
Basically what we required was a guitar that looked vaguely like a Stratocaster. It gave the impression, double cutaways, so on, you know. Had a tremolo arm that sounded like a Stratocaster. We didn't want to alter the sound.
I ended up with springs everywhere, lying on the floor with springs going that way into the bridge and that way. I thought, I can see what's happening. If you hold a Stratocaster, hit it, you'll hear the springs vibrating. That's part of the sound of the Strat. The springs vibrate through the string block, then back through the strings, back throughout the body. It's a very practical thing.
The tremolo unit had to be, of necessity, a different design because of patent infringements and so on. So Jim came up with a nice little device, a little more complicated in appearance than the Fender, but it did work well.
So I came up with a different way to do it. I put a V pivot block right along the front and screwed out the body. And then I had a knife edge on the front of the plate of the vibrato unit. And I had this resin tube out there where I had 6 tubes for the strings to go through. So I got the thing to give the same vibrating
effect, and it kept in tune, because instead of having the underside of the front of the Stratocaster bridge loosely screwed onto the body, so when you move your tremolo handle forwards and backwards, you gradually get the thing biting into the top of the body. So I put the front of the block into a V section, metal section, which I screwed onto the body, and I did it. Metal to metal. That was how Hank and Bruce then changed over from the Strats to the Burns Marvin guitar.
The sound of the Burns, as we said earlier, was quite close to that of the Stratocaster, because Jim designed this guitar to sound as close like a Strat as he could, and he did a really great job on it. And I think anyone would be hard put to tell the difference between a Burns and a Stratocaster. So what shall I put? A little bit of Apache, say.
I think the kind of guitar you got isn't that important. I think it must be very frustrating for young kids, though, who haven't actually discovered a sound, to try and accept that. Once you've got your Les Paul or your Stratocaster or your Telecaster, whatever it is you've got your heart set on, and then you find that you're still lumbered with all the problems that you had on your old Jippo copy, then you start to really realise that it's not the instrument so much as the playing. But I remember when we were playing Shadows material, our lead guitarist saved up for what seemed like forever and got himself a Stratocaster. And there was an instant Fender sound. But it wasn't Hank Marvin's sound. His particular sound has got a hell of a lot to do, I think, with the way he holds his pick.
The position that the plectrum is held in the fingers can alter the effects you can get from the strings. And so if you hold it very near the edge, which would hit the string, you can get that sort of effect. And if I hold it higher up, obviously one can get a bit of variety in one's playing that way. One thing that used to always intrigue me was the way people, particularly James Burton, used to bend strings. And I used to try to emulate that. The strings that we had available were medium gauge, quite a heavy string. And I assumed, therefore, that James Burton was some kind of incredible Hulk, because he could bend these strings over. And he used a banjo string on the first string and a first string on the second, tuned down, therefore easy to bend, second on the third, and that's how he was able to do all these great bending effects.
Well, I believe what you say.
Of course, now strings are produced by the manufacturers in various gauges, including ultralight gauge, sort of fuse wire, and then, hey, where are the strings? Obviously, I'm interested in new effects and new sounds, but usually they turn out to be gimmicky, not something that one could use consistently, like the wah-wah pedal, you know. Suddenly everyone's wah-wahing all over the place. Great at first, but just overdone.
For a long, long time, I didn't use any effects at all. I don't like wah-wahs, I don't like throat devices. I'm more kind of celestial, you know what I mean? I quite like phasers and things like that. You know, the Fuzzbox's first exponent was Jimmy Page, who had a little lash-up job. The B-side of Can't Explain was a song called Bald-Headed Woman, which is an old blues song, allegedly written by Shel Talmy, our producer. And Jimmy played on both the Kinks version and us, and he used his ubiquitous Fuzzbox. This is in 1964. And plug it in and play G, and it'd go, like that. And a lot of record producers said, hey, that's the new sound. I said to him, it sounds like your amp's blowing up. You know, I didn't like it.
Want nobody, woman. It'll make me mean, yeah, Lord, make me mean. Yeah, I don't want no bald-headed woman. It'll make me mean, yeah, Lord, make me mean. Yeah, I don't want no sugar in my coffee. It'll make me mean, yeah, Lord, make me mean. Yeah, I don't want no sugar in my coffee. It'll make me mean, yeah, Lord, make me mean. Yeah.
Well, I think the first time my guitar sound was ever captured properly in the studio was by Glyn Johns on Won't Get Fooled Again. I don't think before that my stage sound was ever captured. And what he did on that is he used 2 amps and we double tracked it. You know, that big da-da-da sound at the front of that. And since then I've tried to use that approach. I find that if you use 2 amps and 2 mics, even if you eventually end up reducing them to mono, you end up with a slightly wider sound. I don't know why. Previous to that, I just used to turn up.
We'll be fighting in the streets with our children at our feet. In the morrows that need worship will be gone. And the men who spurred us on, sitting judgment of all wrong, they decide and the shotgun sings the song.
What I do basically is I find a decent guitar, plug it into the amp and play, and that's it. Good rock and roll is simple stuff. It's nice that there are some players around who can do some sensational things, but you'll find however great the player, whether it's Jeff Beck or John Williams or Eric Clapton or Stanley Clarke, they'll never sneer, never, at somebody who only knows 4 chords but can play them with conviction, because it's the music that counts. Just given a guitar and a chord book, any kid can play the guitar, and I think it's one of the great things about it. It liberates music.
Guitar started to become popular because it appeared to be an instrument that you could play in a day. People were liking a kind of music which was very simple. They could buy a guitar cheaply, they could carry it around to their friends' places, you could sing while using it and move around while using it. And then obviously later on, when groups like ourselves got going, featuring the electric guitar started to sell in great numbers because people wanted to try to emulate our sound. So anything that's popular will spawn copyists, as we indeed ourselves were. We were just trying to copy the Americans.
It's such an instant and expressive instrument. If you just grapple with the first couple of years of getting past it, then it's like gung-ho. It's like being given the baton and being able to run with it.
It Was In Tune When I Bought It was produced by Paddy Kingsland and Henry Parker.